You see Julian Edelman on Fox NFL Kickoff Sundays in the fall. He's got his podcast, Games with Names, and he is joining us. So we haven't had you on since Aaron Rodgers joined the Steelers. Aaron yesterday saying, it's probably it, 20 years, I've done my thing. So first of all, your take on Aaron joining a defensive culture that, by the way, won 10 games last year and was fairly anemic post-Thanksgiving on offense. How's he going to do?
I think they're going to be a solid football team, as they always are. I think they'll be a little better than last year. Do I think they're going to win a Super Bowl? No. I love Mike Tomlin. I love the culture. I love the defense. I like Arthur Smith. But how fast can they get that machine going? Aaron doesn't know his teammates at all yet. Once again, he's going into another year behind. When he did that last time, they didn't have a good first 8 weeks.
That's right.
You know, and then he turned it on at the end because he started learning his teammates. So I like the move. It's the best thing for the Steelers right now. And Aaron, he's going to a team that's not terrible. If he wants to continue his football career, that's awesome. And he gets an opportunity to do it at one of the pillars of the National Football League. But do I think they're going to win a Super Bowl? No, I don't. I think they'll be a little better. They're 29th in offensive line last year. They didn't address it at all. They have the same offensive line. They get rid of one of their running backs that was pretty productive, but that kind of didn't hit the way they wanted with Harris. Like when he was a first-round draft pick 5 years ago, and he was never the guy. Warren came in, did well. How are they going to use that running game to help Aaron? Arthur Smith does a good job at that. Are they going to win a Super Bowl? I don't think so.
You know, think about this with Aaron. When did he have his most success? When he worked with the receivers he knew. Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, you know, those took years.
Years.
When the Packers receivers got young at the end in Green Bay, it wasn't good. He goes to the Jets. He doesn't know the receivers. Not good. He goes to the Steelers. DK Metcalf doesn't know him. It's funny, like Tom Brady had to build trust. Tom at the end in New England, I'm out. Now, it did work after about 12 games in Tampa, but Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are pretty good, right? Bruce Arians is coach.
That was also a COVID year, mind you. They didn't get to prepare the way they could prepare. So you can't even put those guys in the same sentence because we didn't know it was Tom Brady's last year when it was last year.
Right.
He didn't want the distraction of that. He wanted to go out and play his best possible football that he could play the last year of his career without making it a distraction. Now, you know, we know it's his last year, and you know we've heard that before.
When you were did you know it was your last year? Did you have a sense going into the last off season, this may be it? If I get banged up, I may not do it.
No. It wasn't until my last year finished. That last game finished, that's when I knew my career was over.
Why?
Probably. Because I just wasn't, I was trying to recover from a knee thing, a root tear, and the amount of energy I was putting in, I used to get this much output. The amount of energy I was putting in was up here, and I'm getting this much output. I could never recover and get my knee right. It was going to be a long road for me to go down.
And you just didn't want to go down that road.
I didn't want to go down that road.
It's interesting, and I saw this with Eli Manning at the end. He didn't want to get hit. Smartly would throw the ball away. I've noticed this a little bit the last year in Green Bay and in New York. Aaron not going to sit in there. Matt Stafford's one of the only old guys that will sit in the pocket and get drilled.
Yeah.
Most guys don't. That was my take on Aaron in New York. It's like he's going to throw the ball away early. And I think that is not discussed. That young quarterbacks, it's almost a badge of honor. Josh Allen, Big Ben, bring it on. I'll hold it to the end. One of the disadvantages of an older quarterback, you see it with Kirk Cousins a little bit, you just don't want to get hit.
Yeah, you know, I remember when I told my dad I was retiring. He told me, you finally smartened up. And he said that because he said, it's kind of like a fighter pilot. You have to be willing to die doing your job.
Yeah.
You have to be on that edge of reckless to go out and do what you have to do. And the day where you have to think about going to the reckless is the day you're done.
Yeah, you get out.
So, you know, when you get older, you don't want to get hit as much because you smarten up and you realize that one hit that you took you've had that hit before, and it took you 2 weeks to get back the last time.
And you were younger.
And you were younger. So, I mean, it does take a toll. You know what? I think it's going to be an exciting season. I mean, they're bringing one of the greatest quarterbacks of our generation into a cornerstone franchise with the Steelers. I'm going to watch every game.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. It's a great move. It's great for the league. But do I think they're going to the Super Bowl? No.
So, you know Mike Vrabel very well, right? Right? He's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 years, I got pretty fortunate. I pick a team every year to double their win total. And I think New England's it. So Mangini told me last week that Mike Vrabel's the smartest football player he ever coached. Mm-hmm. He said his recall was insane. He could recall. Give me some insight about Vrabel that you don't, maybe as a person, maybe not as a coach, but what makes him different? Because a lot of good players don't become good coaches.
He's the rare case of being a tough guy that's really smart.
That's funny.
It's weird. You know, he can alpha you with his presence, but he can also alpha you with his mouthpiece. Like, he knows how he could, like when Mangini said he could recall anything, he could recall, like we'd be at the Kentucky Derby and he'd pull out a play that we played against each other when he was with Tennessee, and he'd say, you know, that one play you did that, and he could just bring it out. I mean, that's what I think is so special about Coach Vrabel. He's got that alpha mentality, but he's also a really smart guy. Yeah. So he has both of them. I'm excited to see what they do in New England. I got to go to their camp a couple weeks back, and it looked great.
What jumped out to you?
What jumped out to me? Drake Maye, the question he asked me, the hunger that he had. You know, I went in and talked to the team, and afterwards Drake came by, and they're running the same offense that we were in. He kind of asked me, hey, what do you see on this? And it was a smart question. That stood out to me, that he didn't have an intimidation factor of being embarrassed to go out and ask a guy a question that's been in the system that he's going to try to go be in, and that, you know, ask that kind of question. I thought that was big. His leadership, the leadership of the coaches, there was a good tempo, not a lot of standing around. So I'm excited to see what they do this year.
So John was joking the other day. Sean Payton took his camp to Hawaii. And he said, yeah, McVay. And John said, doesn't feel very Belichickian. I remember when McVay came into the league, he's like, I'm not playing any of my starters in the preseason. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And it's not a country club, because you watch the Rams, that defense is physical. He likes to run the ball. But I do think, not that it's become the NBA, but it's a more player-friendly league today than 5 years ago. And I think McVay, there's a bit of a Robin Hood. Like, people are following McVay's lead, which is you don't have to bark. When you look at them going to Hawaii, how does it land for you?
I think it's a cool opportunity. Some of my favorite times as a Patriot is when we would go play an away game in Green Bay, and then as a team we would go work in San Diego for the week and stay in San Diego for the week and unify as a team. Like, those are unifying team moments.
Do you go to the zoo?
You could go. Well, regardless, your family's there, whatever. But you guys are all together and you're working together. You're not all going home. You're all going to the hotel. You guys are all going to eat with each other. You're going to talk with each other. You're going to be around each other. You're going to be around each other's family. That's great. I don't have a problem with that at all. As long as the time that they use to get ready for football in Hawaii is productive, that's amazing. That's evolution to, like, workplace people. You know, that you got to take care of the guys, the horses. So I thought that was a cool thing that McVay did. You know, and I'm sure every meeting and walkthrough or practice that they did was very productive with their time, and that's the difference. You know, you look at other teams that don't practice their guys. Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor don't play the guys in the preseason. They haven't won a game in September in like 5 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so not everyone's Sean McVay.
Right.
Okay, not everyone's Bill Belichick, where it's completely different. Everyone's got their rhyme and reason of how they get things going. The best coaches know how to get their players up. So whatever it takes, it takes. But Sean McVay knows with that specific team, he can do that.
So I want to end with this and take your time on this. So John and I did our AFC, NFC surprise picks. The one we totally disagree with, and I know their schedule is easy, is the Niners. So here's what worries me about the Niners, is that they lost 2 defensive players that the staff loved. They loved Greenlaw and they loved Hufanga. They couldn't afford them. So first, they're both leaders. They're both tough guys. They both get injured. They play through pain. Those are leader guys. Don't love that.
Culture guys.
Really good culture guys. Tough guys. What I also don't like, and I think you can talk about this with New England, they're getting old on offense. McCaffrey's injuries, Trent Williams, Kittle had a great year. But and Purdy is a good quarterback, but I do think he's a bit reliant on his protection and the health of like Kittle and McCaffrey. So when a team's best players are predominantly either injured guys or old guys, and now the season is 17 weeks long, go to the oldest Patriot team you played on. Everybody's been banged up. Everybody hates rehab. And the guys like maybe a Gronk are really valuable. Does it seep into your head? Do you think about it like we've got to be healthy? Because I look at this team. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. Losing record in San Francisco without McCaffrey. They're not the same team. So I look at them and I think, somebody's going to get hurt. They're too old. John looks at them and goes, schedule's easy. The coach is brilliant. What do your take on the Niners now? Because I think they're getting really expensive and really old.
I agree with you. First off, there is no easy schedule in the National Football League. I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say that. Like, there is no Louisiana Lafayette Tech school. Everyone is getting paid the same amount of money.
That's mostly McIntyre, not Middlecoff, for the way.
Well, regardless, there is no. Everyone always says that, but who's going to be the hot division this year? We don't know. It could be some scrambled division that plays really great. So that I don't like that. What was the second thing?
The second thing is, hey, Shanahan's a great coach.
Shanahan, yeah, he's a great coach, but, you know, he's a coach that likes to play from ahead. Whenever he plays from behind, he's not really, you know,
he stays to the play sheet.
He stays to the play sheet. So, like, if we take a look at the 49ers, you know, when they don't have a lead, the stats are terrible. When they play from ahead, they play the game the way they want to play. When their team is constructed to play that way, they're a really great football team.
Yeah.
Offensive line's getting old. This reminds me a lot of the 2019 Patriots, but not even kind of close because we came off winning a Super Bowl, but the old factor.
But you went into the season knowing.
We went into the season, you know, a little banged up. Gronk retires. AB comes in. You know, if you're going to sit there and you're going to say, if this guy stays healthy, we're going to be good, you're gone. I remember hearing that all the time from coaches and you know, in the Patriots organization. If you think that, you know, we're going to be good, if this guy stays healthy, that means your team doesn't have the depth to go out and win. You know, so like I don't like those sayings and those. I just don't like that either. So when it comes down to the 49ers, for me, I think this is going to be. They haven't hit on any of their draft picks other than Brock Purdy.
You know what's really interesting about this?
And that's what you have to do.
Brock Purdy draft. You take Brock Purdy out of that draft, it is a bad draft.
You know, and they lost Ward. They lost key parts of their secondary, which they've struggled the last few years.
And when Bosa's hurt, the defense is not the same.
You know, and then you look at points allowed. They're like 20. They're like not the middle third of points allowed, which that's the real. They can stop people because they have Bosa who can, you know, strip sack someone and get a turnover or something, but the game's ultimately about points, and they haven't been able to stop teams this year, especially when a team runs the ball, you know. So I'm worried about my San Francisco 49ers. I grew up loving this team. I root for this team, but, you know, we'll see how Pearsall does. You know, they had to hit on him last year. You know, the shoulder thing, that's a freak thing. He gets shot in San Francisco, which is crazy. We don't have any offensive linemen. Trent's old. Trent missed a few games last year.
Yeah.
You know, it gets tough when he's a big man.
Well, they play the Rams twice.
And that's a young Rams team.
Oh, that defense is all 24.
What did they do? What did the Rams do? They hit on Puka Nacua in the 5th round. They hit on Versus. They hit on, who was the other? Kyron Williams in the 5th round. They're hitting on draft picks. Niners, it's you know, I love Lynch and all, but they've missed on a few picks.
You know, John's a former scout. I think sometimes the Niners at the top, the owner York, Shanahan, Lynch, the quarterbacks are talked about. If you go to the fringes and the margins, I mean, you're a former scout. They have had some bad misses.
Well, the Trey Lance, you know, they got rid of a bunch of first-rounders, so they didn't have one for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So those, I mean, they were missing 3 players. Trey Lance was a 0, and then the next 2 first-rounders didn't exist.
That's right.
So then the pressure on the 2nd and 3rd rounders, you miss a couple of those, and Jules knows this, you start winning, you're drafting at the end of every round. So you're drafting at the end of the 2nd round. That's your first pick. It's like pick 60.
Yeah.
And you whiff on that, all of a sudden you're like, man.
And that's how you build your team. You got to build it through the draft. And
you need cheap labor at some point. You have to hit on 4th and 5th round players. I mean, Jawan Jennings and Brock Purdy are 2 of their best players.
And they hit on later
I mean,
rounds.
those are, where would they be without Brock Purdy and Jennings right now?
They'd be in trouble.
And they're both 7th round.
They need McCaffrey.
I will
If
say
McCaffrey's-
one thing, though, about the San Francisco 49ers. There's been a lot of talk about them regressing this year, which they've been the target of the West Coast for the last 5 years. Maybe them flowing under the radar could help them this year. Maybe the weak schedule where everyone thinks they're circling San Francisco because they're banged up, maybe they, you know, energize that fuel and put that towards win. You never know, but I think this could be a good thing for them if they are the underdogs going under the radar, because they haven't been that in a long time.
You know, it's funny because McIntyre's been on this. His whole thing is the schedule's easy. And it is easier than, let's say, the Giants. But part of the reason it looks easier is Shanahan and Brock Purdy, like, you can score points. The Giants can't. In your career, and I know Belichick never let you overlook anybody, but there had to be one game in your New England career when you looked at the schedule, saw a film, and thought, they aren't good. And they either beat you.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns in
I remember
13.
I remember
12 or 13.
in Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
And they housed you.
Yeah. I think I had a fumble. Rob had a fumble. We fumbled on a kickoff return. And that was in like 2013
I bet
or
you
12.
Bill was bitter.
We watched, anytime we played Cleveland from there on out, we would have a 35-play cut-up of that year's game. Of like,
I remember it.
fellas, let's not turn the ball over on special teams and lose this game. Can we do that? Like, we watched that game my whole rest of my career for like 7 more years, 8 more years.
Wasn't that
every time we played the Cleveland Browns?
Did Peyton Hillis play in that game?
Peyton Hillis jumped over like 3 of us, I think. I don't know. It was that game. I remember.
There was a Buffalo game when Brady threw 4 picks up in Buffalo.
What year was that?
Yeah, it was probably before you.
It could be before me, because
Yeah.
I think we won. When we got Gronk, I don't think we ever lost to Buffalo. It was crazy because Gronk would go play in Buffalo. It's his hometown. He'd have like 2 touchdowns every time.
Yeah. The bad Brady game in my life that I remember.
And there was a Cincinnati game where he played in a rain game in 13, I believe, where, you know,
it's raining.
But it was like a torrential downpour, and we had it for the last drive. They had the rocket.
You know what I remember about the Cleveland game? Bright blue skies.
Bright blue skies.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I'm like Rain Man on that.
Little windy.
It's Cleveland.
It's Cleveland.
But I remember Peyton Hillis is like Marshawn Lynch against the Saints. He's just blowing over all you guys.
It was a
not a good flight home.
wasn't a good time anytime you played them again after that.
Julian Edelman. What a pleasure.
What a pleasure.
Good seeing you, buddy. We'll take a break. It's The Herd.